In an industry stuffed with marketing bullshit, empty promises, and shiny-suited liars, one woman's had enough. She knows what it's like to have the wrong clients, no money, and no time for fun. But she also knows how to fix it. And on the Business for Superheroes show, she promises to tell the down and dirty truth about business, sales, and running away with the circus. Here's your host, Vicky Fraser.
Hello and welcome to the Business for Superheroes show. I'm Vicky Fraser and this is Joe.
Hello.
And it is 7:27 a.m, which is a pretty unusual time for us to be doing a podcast.
This is not right at all.
It's not right at all. There's no gin. It's light. And
I'm going to work in a bit.
And Joe's going to work. Well, I'm going to the dentist in a bit. And I'm going to see my dad because it's my dad's birthday.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Adrian.
Happy birthday, Dad. So, last week... We might be a bit more rambly this week because we're really not very awake yet.
Not very awake. Apologies.
Yeah. But, you know, we get up early so that we can bring these ramblings to you. Yes. So last week I said hit us up for podcast topics and people actually did.
Blimey.
I know.
Somebody's listening.
Yeah, at least one somebody.
Excellent.
I know, it's cool. So, Bobbie replied to ask about testimonials, and I'm just going to read out what she said. Is that right?
Yeah, that's fine by me.
Cool. She says, a while ago, I asked for testimonials on my work and received some very nice ones indeed. Smiley face. So, I have these stashed away in a nice little folder, but I was definitely left wondering what's the best way to use them. They're really good and very complimentary, and it seems a shame to not use them in the best way possible. I put stuff out on Facebook. This was before I had MailChimp set up. I have a page for the classes and for the wedding dresses as well as my personal one. Bobbie is a seamstress and she's a very, very good one. And then she also said she links people to see them on her testimonials page on the website, but who knows how many people bother to look. And I guess I'm saying, how do I get business from these great testimonials? I'm lucky to have them. People don't have to respond when you ask, and they're obviously very happy with what I do, and I really should make the most of that.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah. So, first of all, well done for getting testimonials, because a lot of people, it's one of those things that either they don't bother or they feel really awkward asking. Because it can be quite an awkward thing. It's almost as daunting as asking for sales, I think, sometimes. Actually, this month's Inner Circle Chronicle, April's Inner Circle Chronicle is on the very topic of testimonials, funnily enough.
It's like a plan. It's like a coordinated thing. You're not just making this up, are you?
No, I'm not, no, because the April thing went out a few days ago, and yeah, it was all about testimonials and how to get a really good one, because the thing is, I go really in depth about the right questions to ask to get testimonials that are really, really valuable, because most testimonials, although they're very nice, they're not particularly useful.
Okay. Because
it's not enough to just kind of say, oh yeah, Joe's company is awesome, they're great, they're wonderful, blah, blah, blah. Because that doesn't really tell you anything.
Right, just tells people they like you.
Yeah, and that's, you know, whilst that's nice, it's not really very useful when it comes to helping people to decide whether or not to use you. I mean, it's better than nothing.
Sure.
It's better for people to say, yeah, you know, this business is great, than to say nothing at all. But if you have a look at most websites, have a read of most testimonials, and after you've read 2 or 3 of them, they all sound pretty much the same. So-and-so is great, so-and-so is wonderful, so-and-so is marvellous. And it's a bit like, oh, okay, that's wonderful, but it doesn't really tell me anything about working with this person or the experiences they've had or anything really.
Okay.
I'm not going to go into an awful lot of depth about it here because that's what my Inner Circle members pay me for, and it's not fair for me to you know, give away all the cool stuff that I share with them on a free podcast. But what I am going to say is I'm going to talk a little bit about why testimonials are useful. Do you know why testimonials are useful, Joe?
I'm going to go with the idea that testimonials are useful because people behave the way they see people around them behaving.
That's exactly right. Joe looks so proud of himself right now.
Yay!
That is exactly right. It's the principle of social proof. And if you have read Robert Cialdini's book Influence, which you totally should have done because it's a very, very interesting book, as well as being a book that everybody who markets anything should read. He talks about that quite a lot. And it's psychologically and neuroscientifically proven fact that we, like Joe said, we behave the way we see other people behaving. Which is why, by the way, crowds are stupid. And it's why crowds are dangerous. That's quite interesting, actually. We could pursue that for a while. Have you ever been to a football match?
I went to a football match once.
Did you like it?
Didn't get it.
No, leaving aside the football.
Oh, okay. It was all right. It was an afternoon out.
Yeah, because I've been to a few football matches because I used to be a vague fan of Coventry. Now I think football is utterly pointless. Hi, football fans. Actually, here's a better example. Cricket. I love cricket. I particularly like 2020 cricket because it's really, really good fun to watch. But I once went to see, I think it was like the third day of the test match at Edgbaston. And being a poor student back then, we couldn't afford decent seats, so we ended up sitting in the cheap seats. And listened to a growing crowd of people hurl racist abuse at one of the police officers who was in the stand. And it was vile.
Nice.
Yeah, it was really, really horrific. And there were people there with kids, and it started off with a small group of people, and then people gradually joined in, and we were just kind of sitting there, kind of withdrawing further and further into ourselves, and just thinking, this is awful. I'm thinking, you can't stand up and say anything, because if we stood up and said anything, they would have turned on us, and it wasn't a case of being too cowardly to stand up and say anything. It was a case of 200 really vile people turning around and beating the crap out of you. Possibly.
Nice.
Yeah, it's horrible. But that's a really good example of crowdthink and, looking at to other people's behaviour, because I bet a lot of those people were perfectly nice people away from that environment.
Yeah. Ooh, nasty.
It was just bizarre. But anyway, that is why testimonials and social proof is so powerful, because when in doubt, we look to other people's behaviour to see how to behave ourselves. It's like, when you're waiting to cross a road and you're kind of like, these traffic lights are taking ages to change. And you're kind of looking around waiting for the first person to cross against the lights. And as soon as the first person does it, everyone's like, that's fine, I can do it as well then.
Yeah.
And here's a really good one. If you ever want to have a bit of a laugh, go on, when you're out in town or whatever, get 2 or 3 friends together and just stop and stare up at the sky. And gradually, a small crowd will form around you. I think they found a critical mass. I think you needed like 3 or 4 people in a group to start doing it before other people would stop. But gradually people would stop, and then more and more people will stop, and suddenly you've got a crowd of people staring at absolutely nothing in the sky, at which point you can walk off.
Right.
No, it's a good experiment in social proof, and it will show you, it will demonstrate to you in kind of real time that this stuff is real. Okay. And also it's amusing.
Anyway. I think would you not just get trampled if you did that in London?
Well, that's why you need a small group to start with.
Right, big enough not to get trampled.
Big enough not to get trampled, big enough to be noticed, because one person kind of standing and staring at the sky.
That's the crazy person.
That's the crazy person. That's a good point. If it's 3 or 4 people, then there's obviously something worth looking at up there.
Right.
So if you ever need help, here's a top safety tip here. If you ever need help, so if you're like in a car crash or you get attacked or fall over and hurt yourself or whatever, don't just scream for help randomly, because the chances are that nobody will help you.
They'll all stand around looking.
Well, no, they probably won't pay much attention at all. And that's not because they're awful people, although some people are awful people, but it's not because they're kind of selfish. But everybody automatically assumes that somebody else is taking care of that problem. And if there's nobody helping, then... Do you remember when we saw that person who'd been knocked off his scooter? We were on the way somewhere.
Yeah.
And our instinct was to stop and help, because there were like 4 or 5 other people who had clearly stopped to help. And it's like, it was utterly pointless of stopping to help, because there were already people helping.
Yeah.
But if that person hadn't fallen off his scooter, we would have hesitated before stopping to help, because...
No. If that person hadn't had people around him.
Hadn't had people around him, we might have hesitated. I mean, we probably wouldn't actually, because we're bikers, but... That's the way it works. So yeah, if you need help, rather than kind of screaming randomly for help, pick one person, make eye contact with them, and say, you there. You there. Call 999, or you there. Stop the traffic, or, whatever. Because if you make eye contact with somebody and give them a direct instruction, they will do it, because people are... I think Dan Kennedy said people are wandering around with an umbilical cord, waiting to plug it in somewhere. Most people are kind of sheepy.
Right.
And they need telling what to do. And we're more comfortable when we're told what to do as a species.
Yeah.
Which kind of goes for social proof as well.
Okay, so back at the testimonials.
So this is why This is why it's really important. So if you think about how you decide to see films and eat at new restaurants and read books and watch TV series, sometimes you'll decide these things for yourself, but quite often it's because a friend or somebody has gone, oh, have you seen such and such TV series? Have you seen The Walking Dead? And you're like, no. And it's like, oh, you really should watch that. And that tends to be how you read a lot of books and see a lot of TV series. That's the same way that people work with business as well.
Okay.
The very best business comes in my experience, comes from word of mouth referrals. It's probably the same for you guys as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it probably is.
Where do you get all of your big contracts from?
We tend to do a little job for a site. So they test the water with us, they give us a little job, and then they give us a bigger job, and then the head office comes along and says, right, you've done that for them, now we need a multi-million-pound thing all the way across Europe.
Which is cool.
Which is good, yeah.
And I know sometimes you've had people turn up from other sites and go, oh, what's this? What is this? How does this work?
Yeah, definitely.
At which point they've gone, oh, well, it's amazing and it does this. And they're like, we must have that.
We must have one of those.
Yes. So that's the best way to kind of do it. But when you do get your testimonials, you don't just want a whole load of, oh, Joe's marvellous and wonderful.
I am.
He is. As he has told you.
Yes, it's true.
But and they're nice, but you don't want all that. You want the full story. And if you want to know how to get the full story, dear podcast listener, then, Inner Circle is there, ready and waiting.
What?
www.businessforsuperheroes.com/inner-circle. So, how to get amazing testimonials. But let's assume you've got these amazing testimonials. How do you use them? How do you guys use your testimonials? Do you guys get testimonials?
We struggle a little bit, actually. We struggle because most of the people we work for put confidentiality agreements in place and then won't tell us anything or advertise for us or let people on their site or allow us to use their name or anything ever. It's quite distressing. Although we have got a really good one from president of Coca-Cola.
Well, that's quite a good one.
Yeah.
Cool. And what does it say?
That was for the sister company of LineView.
Right.
And it says something along the lines of, LineView is the single most effective tool I've seen in my 30 years of production management.
Which actually is really cool, but it's quite limited. It kind of sounds marketing speaky, and I reckon it could be a lot better. Let me loose on the president of Coca-Cola for you. But seriously, the problem that you've just mentioned, probably quite a lot of people have. They have, people are reluctant to give. I don't know why people are reluctant to give away their information and their figures. It makes absolutely no sense to me, because if you're doing a good job, it shouldn't make any difference what everybody else is doing. So here's a pro tip for you. Stop looking around at what everybody else is doing. Stop worrying about what they're doing and what their figures are, and concentrate on your own damn business. People waste way too much time on this stuff. And yes, okay, if you've got proprietary information, you need to be a bit careful with it. But even then, people can't replicate your results exactly because they're not you. It doesn't matter how much somebody, messes around with Coca-Cola stuff. They're not Coca-Cola.
That's definitely true.
It seems a bit bonkers to me. People buy Coca-Cola because it's Coca-Cola.
But then companies who have big brands to protect, and I'm not suggesting that would be Coca-Cola for a second, but people who have big brands to protect get quite nervous about admitting that they have problems manufacturing it.
Which I also think is a bit bizarre, because people know intellectually that everybody has problems manufacturing everything, and this is all about addressing objections again, and that's where testimonials could come in really, really useful. They can help you address objections, because you find out interesting stuff about the kinds of problems that your customers have, and you find out what they really find useful. It's often not what you think it is. So I bet sometimes you've kind of done it. There was a thing with aspirin, and I might be scrambling this story a little bit, but when aspirin first came out, they were marketing it obviously as a headache cure, because that's pretty much what it was. But they found that actually people were buying it because it didn't upset your stomach. Because before aspirin came along, a lot of the aspirin type medications were really harsh on your stomach. They irritated your stomach lining,
Right.
and they made you feel quite ill. And they never mentioned that in any of their benefits, in their marketing material. They never mentioned it until they talked to their customers and found out that actually, yeah, sure, it does a good job on headaches, but the real benefit of it was that it got rid of the headache and it didn't give you an upset stomach. So it got rid of it didn't give you an extra problem.
Yeah.
And they didn't know that until they started asking people about, why they used aspirin and how they got on with it and all the rest of it. So that was the thing that they were marketing in the end. It wasn't that the headache, it was a headache cure. It was that it didn't
upset you.
Yeah, it didn't upset you. So you'll find out all sorts of really, really fascinating stuff that you didn't know before when you dig into why your customers use you. That's one of my favourite parts of writing marketing material, is doing testimonials, because it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, anyway, how to use them. It can be a problem if you've got confidentiality agreements and all the rest of it. And in that case, I'd say don't ask a question that, don't ask them specifically about that product. It's always best if you can get a testimonial about the specific product. But if there's confidentiality issues, ask them about what it's like to work with you instead. Because that is at least as important as the actual product performance, is how well you get on with the person that you're working with. Because otherwise you can't get stuff done. And I know that I would rather a slightly inferior product to working closely with somebody who I thought was an absolute asshat.
Yes.
Because you can always improve the product, but you can't necessarily
improve the asshat.
Improve the asshat. You can train people to behave the way, to do the product the way that you want them to. But it's difficult to change people. And there's probably nothing wrong with the person, it's just that you don't gel. So get testimonials about you if you're stuck with the product. So yeah, something else. Ask for testimonials when people are happy. So straight away, as soon as they've bought something. The best time to ask somebody to either say something nice about you or buy something else is when they've literally just bought from you.
Right.
It's the easiest time to get somebody to buy something else by far. And it's also if that people are bathed in a glow of, oh, I've done the right thing, I bought a thing, and it's kind of, that your brain justifies it to yourself because you've just spent money on something. So they're going to be feeling extra happy about the purchase. So ask them for a testimonial there and then. And also that will help to cement that they've made a good decision. Because if they've said something nice about you, they have to then be consistent with that, which is another principle of persuasion, is commitment and consistency. You make a commitment to something, in this case, this is a good product. And you then even internally follow through with that, oh, it must be a good product because I've said so. Which is ridiculous circular logic of human brains, but it's how our brains work. Interesting stuff. So yeah, how do you use them? All over the place. Use them everywhere. So yeah, in social media, like Bobbie said, absolutely use them there. But use them also in your daily emails or in your brochures or on your websites. And there's no point having them if you don't use them. And keep them up to date as well. Nobody else is, you change. I've gone off on a little bit of a. It's too early in the morning.
It is too early in the morning for this.
It's too early in the morning. But yeah, I mean, if somebody compliments you, ask them if you can use that as a testimonial, and then put it in your daily email. Use it straight away. Get video testimonials if you can. Put those on your website. I always do a little kind of, blah blah blah, all of this stuff about my product or service or whatever, and then don't take my word for it. And then
here's what other people had to say.
Mm-hmm. And you can build a whole marketing piece around the testimonial as well if it's really in depth. If it's the full story, as I recommend going for, because you can find out interesting things about your product and service, and all the rest of it. You can build a whole full story about it. So there's also no such thing as too many testimonials as well, because you change and your product and your service change and your customers change, and you get testimonials for each aspect of your product and service and for you as an individual, and then just use them all over the place. Use them as interest grabbers. Use them as referral tools. Because once you've got a testimonial, you can say, that's great, I'm really chuffed that you are so pleased with the service you've received and the product you've got. Would you mind, do you know of 2 other people who would benefit from this? Is the perfect time to ask for that. And be specific as well. Don't just say, will you refer me? Because people will go, yeah, and then they won't. But they say, can you think of 2 other people who would really benefit from this? Get their names and their email addresses. Would they mind me contacting them? And then you could go to them and say, so-and-so has recommended that I contact you. We're drifting slightly into the realm of referrals here, but it's all similar stuff. So be really specific about this stuff. Don't just be like, oh,
can you give me a referral?
Can you give me a referral? Yeah, because people won't. It's not that they don't want to. It's that it's quite an uncomfortable thing to do because you're basically selling for somebody else. Mm-hmm. And also they're busy. They'll forget. They'll get distracted. So say to them, can you think of 2 other people who would benefit from this product or service that wouldn't mind hearing from me? Oh, yes, I can. Could I have their names, please, and their email address or their phone number? Certainly. Can I say that you sent me? Absolutely, you can. And that's an even bigger endorsement of your service then, because they've put that amount of trust with you, because it's their reputation on the line as well in the end, not just yours. So I hope that's been useful.
Cool.
Don't know if I've answered the question or not. I've talked a little bit more about why testimonials are important, really.
Yeah. So where does Bobbie use them?
Everywhere. All over the place.
That would have been a really short podcast.
Yes, it would. But people are really uncomfortable getting testimonials. That's the thing, and I think it's quite important to explain why they're useful.
It's quite a British thing, isn't it? It's kind of a bit reserved and a bit quiet and a bit kind of unwilling to ask for something expressive.
Yeah. Oh, here's another pro tip. Based on what Joe's just said, because we are quite reserved, get somebody else to ask for a testimonial for you. Because people are going to be much more forthcoming about you to somebody else. Because you don't want to kind of gush with praise about somebody when they're right in front of you, because it's a bit awkward. And likewise, you don't want to give the full story necessarily to somebody who's right in front of you, because, it can be...
I guess if somebody asks for a testimonial on your behalf, you're going to get some pretty good feedback one way or the other, aren't you?
Yep.
And that's valuable. Even if it's not a testimonial you can use, it's useful information.
Yeah, bad feedback is good feedback. Because if there's a problem with your product or service, then you surely want to know about it. And if it's just a one-off and it's that's the only person and they're a bit weird or whatever, then you don't necessarily have to listen to it. But all feedback is useful.
Yeah, you'll benefit from knowing it.
Yeah. So in terms of where to use it everywhere. In your emails, I often quote people's replies to me in my emails, and I'll definitely say so and so has said it's brilliant. I got a really nice email the other day actually from a chap who said that I gave him a eureka moment because I was talking about being overwhelmed and focusing on one particular thing. So that's probably going to be today's daily email, is cool, based on, because then it's not like people are just kind of reading this stuff and not doing anything. It's people are reading this stuff and doing something with it. So use it in your emails, use it in your brochures, on your website, in your podcasts if you do them, in your... What else do we do?
Instagram, Tumblr. No, we don't do that, but other people might. Yeah,
Facebook, LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn's kind of built for testimonials, really, because you've got that kind of recommendation thing. I don't do the endorsement thing, because that's knobs.
Well, is that the one where you just click random buttons and people get...
Yeah.
43 people have said that Joe is awesome at arboriculture.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Which is hilarious, because you're not.
No.
But yeah, I get people that I've never even heard of endorsing me for stuff, and it's like, you couldn't possibly know that.
Yeah, they're just weasels.
Yeah, but the recommendations thing is where somebody actually writes you a testimonial, and that's good. Spoken testimonials are always better, because you'll always get more out of people in a conversation than if you ask them to write stuff down, because most people are not comfortable writing.
Yeah.
So that's it really. So use them everywhere is kind of the short answer. Sprinkle them throughout your copy. If you're making a claim or a benefit, making a claim for a benefit about one of your products or services, and you've got a testimonial that perfectly illustrates that aspect, then use that testimonial there. Use them strategically, so you're not just kind of going, oh, here are a bunch of people at the end with a testimonial. I mean, you can do that as well, but sprinkle them throughout your sales copy, and put them in sensible places. So if you're talking about your speed of delivery and you've got somebody who specifically said something about your speed of delivery, then that's where that testimonial goes. If you're talking about your, in Bobbie's case, her beautifully fitting wedding dresses that she makes bespoke to order.
They're lovely, aren't they?
They are, they're amazing. She makes these tweed, is it tweed? Tweed wedding dresses, and they are extremely niche because most people are not going to want a tweed wedding dress. But if you're having like a steampunk wedding or something like that, then oh my god, these dresses are beautiful, and she's way undercharging. So if you want a tweed wedding dress or a ball gown, get in there before she puts the bloody prices up, which she's going to do, aren't you, Bobbie? But it's just a staggeringly gorgeous dress, and she teaches people how to sew as well. And I'll put the link in the podcast to her website, but I think it's Atelier, Bobbie's Sewing Room and Atelier.com. I will put the link in anyway and make sure that it goes onto the podcast notes.
Yeah.
So I hope that's helped, Bobbie. And in the next podcast, same time next week, we're going to answer Bobbie's second question, because she cheekily stuck a second one in there, and that's fine. And her second question was, I also have a thing about not pestering people too much with business-related emails. I try really hard not to do that, as I don't want to turn people off. But on the other hand, I do need to get to the punters. Don't call them punters. Do you know who's a punter? People in pubs and curb crawlers. They are punters. And I say the easiest way to get more business is to go to people whom you've already sold to in the past. Absolutely. So we'll talk about that next week. And in the meantime, thanks very much, Joe.
No worries. I'm off to work.
Yeah, and I am going to see my dad. So peace out. If you fancy joining the inner circle, businessforsuperheroes.com/inner-circle. I got a whole little flurry of new members last week.
Yeah, that was
last
cool.
month, which is really cool. So welcome to you guys. And yeah, we'll see you same time next week.
Excellent.
Be good.
Like what you've just heard? Tell your colleagues, tell your friends, send them to www.businessforsuperheroes.com/podcast.